Hello, everyone. We are here with the second episode of our program live show, the CS show. We will be continuing from where we left last time. Let's have a quick revision of what we did last time, and then we continue. Okay. We discussed last time about the constructs. There are many types of constructs, but the main construct that we are talking about nowadays is just the iteration. And in iteration, we are discussing count-based iterations. Count-based iterations are completed using for and next, and there are two types, simple and nested. We are going to discuss both simple and nested today. I told you that count-based iteration is when we already know before starting the solution that how many times we would have to actually uh, do the task repeatedly. Like in here, I I told you that I might need to show counting up to 10 from 1 to 10. So this would go on for 10 times. Here I would like to show my name. It would go 5 times, the same thing. Sometimes I may be more technical, more requirements. If more requirements are established, then I may go for a table of 2, or maybe table of any input that user has made 5 times, or average of 3 numbers, where I will go for 3 numbers input and then I'll find average, but the input will be in a loop. There might be several cases at O level. Then we discussed about counting and totaling. I told you that counting is when we add +1 to any variable. So that actually what it does, it adds 1 to the previous value of the variable. And I told you that it is necessary that we have to have same variable on both sides of the assignment operator. If it is not same, then it is not counting. Same goes for totaling, as Sir Shahzada. Hello, Sir Shahzada, you're here.
Hello, sir.
Uh, for totaling, it is again necessary that the same variable is on both sides of the equal to sign, but plus another variable. So if I write a is equal to a plus b, since b is unknown, but it is being added to a, it is said to be totaling. Uh, then we discussed that what sort of question we might come across when we go for simple count based and nested count based loops. So mainly we discussed about simple count based loops. So in simple count based loops, I told you that there are 4 categories, where in first category they will only be asking about the average, and they will be telling that these are the number of input that you have to take, and then we will be finding total of those, and then counting is given. Against that counting, you will find the average and output it. Second type of questions were where they require us to count inside accounting. Count inside accounting means that you have got a bigger count, and then you are actually counting the number of certain conditions met inside the count. For example, if there are 10 students, how many students have A grades, how many students have B grade, and how many students have C grades. The addition of A, B, and C grades would be 10, because the total number of students is 10. And if we have a smaller count out of a bigger count, then we may go for percentages as well. For example, if there are 3 students out of 10 who have earned A grade, it means that it is 30%. Uh, in this category of for next loops questions, we would have so much variety, out of which we discussed few. Number one, we discussed that there would be simple plain question that we might need to find a shorter, a smaller count and to output it, or to find the percentage out of that smaller count and to output it, or the use of these functions. The first function that we are going to discuss is integer function. Integer function is sometimes used to find if the number that is entered is a whole number or not, and sometimes it is used for digits extraction. We have got couple of questions in every category. We will discuss about those. And then we had a mathematics log10 function. We gonna use this function for finding the number of digits in a given number. Then Sir Shahzada reminded me about this div and mod functions. Div and mod. Div and mod are part of the greater type of operation, which is division operation. We have got three types of division: basic division or intrinsic division. We just divide a number numerator with a denominator and we find the result in the decimal or float or real number form, which is absolute division. But if we go with div, then we only get the integer quotient, and if we go with mod, then we get the remainder. For example, if we divide 937 by 7, 133 would be the div integer quotient and 6 will be the remainder. So integer quotient can be found using div and remainder will be found using mod. So these three operations of divisions are always unclear when we solve questions. Actually, we would have to look further into the question that which sort of division is required. If it is said that a number is being divided by another number, it really does not mean that it is just the simple division or intrinsic or basic division. We would have to read further to find out that what sort of division is it. Either we are going to use the remainder using mod function or the integer quotient using diff function. So that was it. Sir Shahzada, anything before we go any further and start solving questions of these categories?
No, sir, I guess we should move on towards the past paper questions.
All right. So how about discussing a little about nested count-based loops before we go any further? Would you please
Yes,
introduce
I
those?
think we should discuss nested for loop before.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, when we talk about nested for loops, we can have an idea. Um, let's say we already know that if we know that if we need to iterate some certain amount of instructions for some fixed amount of time, then we can use for next loop. We can use other looping structure as well, but for next loop is made to iterate instructions for fixed number of times, or what we call is count control loop. So for example, let's take an example of, let's say if there are 30 students in one class, and we need to input their name, their age, we need to do a total, and then we need to calculate the average age, something like that. So the looping structure that we will going to use is for next. And for, let's say, we can name the for variable as students or ST from 1 to 30. So for 30 number of students, so you want to input their age, let's say. Let's say input their age. You want to do the total. And after doing the total, you want to calculate the average of that class. Total divided by 30. All right. What if now you think of that, let's suppose if you have in a school, you have 10 number of classes In every class, you have 30 students. So just like you create this for next loop for 30 students to input their age, to calculate their total, and then calculate their average after doing the total of 30 students. And what if you have to do this same program for 10 number of classes? In each class, you have 30 number of students. So you will going to use one another looping structure. Sorry, you're going to use a for loop, but one another for loop. Just like for these two instructions, you use this for next loop for 30 number of students. And if there are 10 classes and each class you have 30 number of students, you're going to use one another for loop for class 1 to 10. Right. And you need to calculate the, let's say you just need to calculate the average of all the 10 classes. So there will be some little bit more technicality. I'm pretty hopeful that that grand total concept will be told to you by Sir Zach. But right now, I just want to give you that idea that you will going to use one another loop, and you can have a loop within a loop. So next. So this program will somehow, if we try to see this roughly, for first class, this for next loop will going to iterate for 30 times, for 30 number of students. After doing that, next for second class, class number 2, this for loop will again going to execute for 30 times. This is how you will going to have, you can have this program being executed 10 times. So this is how we can talk about the nested loops when you have one loop, another loop. So the concept of the nested loop. I'm pretty hopeful there's one or two more things which are much more important, especially regarding the grand total. If there will be a question and they are asking you that you need to provide the average of the whole school in school where you have 10 classes and each class you have 30 number of students. So how to do that total and where to do the total and where to initialize the total as well. So let's go back to Sir Zafar Ali Khan for this. Sir, I'm just giving control to you.
All right, so let us start. As Sir Shahzada said that in simple for next, we have got just one number to deal with. And in nested for next, we have got two numbers to deal with. For example, if someone asks you to have just the average age of 10 students, then there is just one number, 10 students. But what if they say that there are 10 classes and every class has got 10 students? Now there are two numbers, 10 and 10. So let's say if there are 300 students, every student is appearing 8 O-level subjects. It means that outer loop would go on for 300 for every student. And when it comes to every student, then every student inside loop would go for 8 times because every student is appearing 8 subjects. So first of all that we need to understand is how to recognize a question from the other if it is of for next or not. If it is of simple for next or nested for next or not. So first let's go for recognition. I have opened topical questions over here. So let us start. Give me a second so that I could first reach to the page, which, all right. So hold on, let me share this screen.
Okay. Sir Yusuf, we cannot see your video. We just are able to see your picture, that's it. We're missing you actually.
Sure. All right. So let us start with questions. First, I would like to know that which question is actually format 1 or for next simple for next question. All right, so if you look at this particular question says whatever. If you go along, you would see that there is 30 students here, 30 students. So you go by this question, it would say somewhere that there is a number. Using pseudocode or otherwise, write an algorithm that will input ID, weight, and height of 30 students. So this 30 is actually signifying that this is a for next loop number. I mean question. See subsequent question. It says that temperatures are being collected in an experiment every hour over 200-hour period. So this 200 is telling that this is a simple for next loop. This would go on for 200 times. Next question, 2007. A company has 5,000 CDs, DVDs, and videos. This 5,000 is telling that this is simple for next because this is the only number. The other numbers, they are not actually telling that how many times do we have to do something. It is just 5,000 CDs, DVDs. We have to go on with this loop for 5,000 times. Input codes for all 5,000 items. Then we have got this question from October, November 2007. It says that the fuel economy for 1,000 cars is to be calculated. And then it says that for 1,000 cars, the fuel economy for each car is then calculated. So input the distance traveled and fuel used for 1,000 cars. So this 1,000 is telling that this is format 1 or simple for next loop. Now, we have got so many questions, other questions. If you look into this question, you won't find any single number. It just says that customer can withdraw cash from ATM. Withdrawal is refused if amount is this. Withdrawal is refused if amount is, if current balance is this, if current balance is that. There is no number given, all conditions. So this is not at all for next loop. Over here, if you see, write a procedure using both to input 20 numbers. So this 20 numbers saying what? This is a for next loop. Now, 1,000 items, this is for next loop. 400 flights, for next loop, simple for next loop. Now let's find a question that is not simple for next loop. Here it is 500 cars, it is simple for next loop. Now, here is a question. May, June 2010, P11. This question says, a group of students were monitoring the temperature every day over a 1-year period. Readings were taken 10 times every day. And you may assume that air contains 365 days. Now you can see here that 10 times every day, this is one number, and 365 days, this is another number. So these are two numbers. If these are two numbers, accordingly outputs are required. Highest temperature over the year, lowest temperature over the year, average temperature per day. It means that per day there are 10 inputs. Out of those 10 inputs, we will be finding temperature, average temperature per day. And since we are doing it for 365 days, we have got two loops now, one loop inside another loop. That is why we call it nested. So every day there are 10 readings, means there are 365 days and every day there are 10 readings. It means that total, if we do a total, do maths, then 365 multiplied by 10 becomes 3650. So those 10 readings per day for 365 days become 3,650 readings. So the average temperature for the whole year will be found out of 3,650 readings. All right. So I hope that you got it. If there are two numbers, it is nested for next, and if it is just one number, it is simple for next. And if there is no number at all, let's see how do we find out. Since this question says input 50 number, this is format 1. Input 100 number, this is format 1. But this question, yeah, it says that 1000 student is format 1, but this question says nothing. This question says October November 10 P13 question 17a, write an algorithm using pseudocode flowchart which inputs a set of positive numbers. So it is not described that how many, it just says a set of positive numbers which end with -1. So it means that we keep entering numbers until someone enters -1, and we don't know when that -1 will be entered. So this type of question is not at all for next. For next should have an idea that a number is given and we know that how many times we have to complete that loop even before we have started it. And if there's a condition instead of the number, it is not at all for next question. So let us start with few. As I said, we will have few sorts of question. Average, percentage, output with decision, first input a number and then loop as many times, and then we will get to nested count based loops. So let us start with simple, average, total, and count. Here we are expecting everyone who is watching that they know basic input, output, um, statements, and they know that how to find the average, how to write a statement to calculate or whatever. So all the basics we expect in this lecture that all the students know about it. So we are not going to discuss that how input works, how output works, how the formula is calculated and all. We are just discussing with respect to the for next loops, knowing that input, output, and formula calculation statements are already known to students. Now, so let's say, let's take first question. Simple for next, first question, which is mainly for average. This question says October, November 2007, fuel economy for a car is found using the formula fuel economy is equal to distance traveled in kilometers divided by fuel used. Now, one thing that needs to be understood here is that whatever the units, whatever the units, like over here, we see two units, kilometers and liters. Whatever the units, we are not going to pay any attention to these. These are not part of our deal. So whatever, we never write such things in our pseudocodes or programs. So kilometer, liters, let's say these are just to read, to make you clear, to read about them, to understand the question. But as far as the question goes, none of this will be uh, taken care of. So fuel economy is equal to distance traveled in kilometers and fuel used in liters. And when we divide distance traveled by fuel use, we will find the fuel economy. What would be the fuel economy of a car traveling 40 kilometers at on 10 liters of fuel? So it means that it is 4. Now, the question says the fuel economy of 1000 cars is to be calculated using the formula in question 16a. Here I would like to introduce you with the GitHub GITHUB github.com/ZAK on web. Whatever the codes that we are going to discuss are all uploaded here. GitHub is a website that is for everyone who does programming to save and share their codes with other people. So this is actually GitHub. So GitHub will actually have all the codes that we are sharing over here today. Now, here in GitHub, you have to find a repository. Click here. There are 10 repositories I have uploaded. Click here, over here. And you would see this codes O level. There are other codes AS, A2 and all, but we have to pay attention to codes O level. In O level codes, you will find for next format 1. I call format 1 to the simple for next. So simple for next questions are all uploaded in this folder. If you click this, here is the question that we were discussing. Fuel economy. Fuel economy. We are going to discuss 3 things: pseudocode, Python code, and Visual Basic Code. But remember, in O levels, questions only appear, or IGCSE or GCSE, question only appear for pseudocodes. None of the question ever appeared, nor CIE require you to write your answers in any of the languages. But it is always a good idea to practice everything so that you have a good grasp of your coding. So for the sake of practice, few of the teachers go with Python, few go with Visual Basic, few just go with the pseudocode and all, but it is always a good idea, instead of studying all the questions in air, you should practice those. So I'll be discussing all 3. So fuel economy question, it says that the fuel economy for 1000 cars is to be calculated. So you can see that we have written for count is equal to 1 to 1000. You can see that. So as soon as you have a number, it says that the fuel economy for 1000 cars is to be calculated using the formula in question A. So we have to run this loop this way. For count is equal to 1 to 1000. Remember, this is pseudocode that we are discussing. Then it says that write an algorithm using pseudocode or otherwise. Otherwise means that you may write your answer in any of the languages, but in marking schemes in O levels or IGCSE or GCSE, they never show any code. So by otherwise, we take this as they might ask you to go with the flowchart. Even they themselves do not give flowchart in marking scheme. So it boils down to just pseudocodes. Anyways, pseudocode or otherwise, which input the distance traveled in kilometers and fuel used. So for distance traveled, we use dt as variable, and for fuel use, we use fuel variable. All right, so this statement says input, distance traveled, and fuel used. All right, so hold on for a sec. Let me open up. All right, so it says that input, distance traveled, and fuel use. Let's say, let me make this font bigger. This is the distance traveled. Let's say I have traveled 100 kilometers. Now it is asking for the fuel used. So let's say I use 23 liters. Now what it would do, it will, over here, it will divide this distance traveled 100 by 23 and assign it to fuel economy. The fuel economy variable we have taken over here is an integer. It means it won't show any points in it. So points will be cut down or rounded off. And then it outputs fuel economy, because it says that the fuel economy of each car is then calculated and the following output will be produced. Fuel economy for each car. Each car means as soon as you enter distance traveled and fuel, it will show the fuel economy. So you can see that the fuel economy is being shown over here is 4. It is integer, by the way. That is why it is not showing any points with it. So it is not a floating point or real number. It is an integer. I have deliberately made it an integer. Now, afterwards, it says average fuel economy of all the cars input. Now, average requires you to have a total. Whenever they ask you for average, they actually require you to have a total. So that total will be calculated. As in our previous show, we described that total is actually when we have got the same variable which is being added with another variable, it is said to be the total. So total initially will be 0. Over here we have made 0, total 0. So total is 0, 0 plus 4 will it will become now 4. And then it says that the highest, the best fuel economy and the worst, the lowest fuel economy. This is one standard statement for it. If the fuel economy is greater than highest, and then highest is equal to fuel economy, and if fuel economy is less than lowest, then lowest is equal to fuel economy. You need to understand that whenever we discuss highest and lowest, so whatever the values that we are going to give to these variables before the loop starts are called initialization or initialized values. So all the variables, CI expect us that whatever the variable that we use should be initialized first. So all those variables which are not highest and lowest and they are numbers will always be initialized to 0. So this count is 0, this distance traveled is 0, this fuel is 0, this total is 0, fuel economy is 0, average is 0, but highest and lowest are -1000 and 1000. So remember, highest would go for -1000, highest to the lowest side initialized, and lowest to the highest side initialized. The reason is that whatever the first value that will enter the system will adjust this minus and plus 1000 phenomena automatically. So let's say that there are 1000 cars. The highest fuel economy of the car before any single car's input is made is -1000 and lowest is 1000. So let's say over here we have calculated the fuel economy 4. So 4 is greater than -1000. So the highest has become 4 now. Similarly, 4 is less than 1000. So lowest has become 4 now. So the idea of keeping this highest -1000 and lowest 1000 is to make the first value that is being calculated in the system the highest as well as the lowest. No matter these are 1000 cars, when the first car's data is entered, its fuel economy is the highest as well as the lowest yet. When we would have second car and third car and fourth car, it will adjust either the highest or the lowest. But for the very first value, because of this phenomena of having -1000 and +1000 as initialization, will make both highest and lowest the same in first go. All right. So this next will now send the control back. Now, it will actually be asking for another, then another, then another, then another. Once it gets out of this, after 1000 times, it would have a total and one highest out of those 1000 and one lowest out of those 1000s. So then the average will be calculated. Total, we have done it ourselves and we already knew the count. So total divided by count will calculate the average. All right, and then we will output. They said to output the average first. We have outputted the average first, and then they said that to output best, we have output the highest, and then they have said the worst, lowest, will we have output lowest. Now let's see in fuel economy. Same question, another same question. This question is this one. October, November 2009, P11. A car's speed is measured between point A and B, which are 200 kilometers apart. So cars are running between point A and B, which are 200 kilometers apart, and they need us to find the final speed of each car. So we know that speed is distance divided by time. So we have this question: write an algorithm using pseudocode or otherwise which input the times for 500 cars. So this 500 cars is telling that this is actually a for next loop, simple for next loop. Calculate the final speed of each car using the formula in part A, that is 200 divided by time. Now you need to understand, in the previous question we had distance traveled and fuel economy, both were unknown, so we had to take those input. But over here the distance is known, only the time is unknown, so we will be taking input for the time. Calculate the final speed of each car using the formula here. The final speed of all 500 cars we have to calculate. So final speed here. Similar for count is equal to 1 to 500, because this time we have got 500 cars. Input time, why not distance? Because distance is constant and it is given. Time is input, then we find the final speed. The formula for final speed is the variable for final speed is fs, and the formula is final speed is equal to 200 divided by time. And once we find the formula, it will be output. I mean the final speed, it will be output. And then we have to total, because it says that the final speed of each car, the slowest, the fastest, and the average. So total is found so that we could find average at the end, and then we have to find the highest and the lowest, and same analogy as per the previous question. So these two questions are identical. Now let's see how these questions are being dealt in Visual Basic. In Visual Basic, in pseudocode, it is assumed that as soon as we initialize, the variables are created, as happens in Python. But in Visual Basic, we have to actually declare these variables. Declaration of the variables means that we have to create these variables in computer's memory before we use them. Variables are memory locations reserved before their use, so that whatever the value that you assign to the variable, they go to that particular memory location. All right. So now we declared those variables. This is irrelevant for O-level students, so don't pay any attention to it. All the variables that we are going to use will be initialized over here. Instead of highest and lowest, all variables will be initialized to 0 if they are numbers. And highest and lowest, as I said, that highest would go with -1000 and lowest with 1000. So this is going for 500 times. I have deliberately put 5 over here so that I could run and check the program. Time is equal to console.readline. Console.readline is an equivalent in Visual Basic of input, and then same formula for the final speed is calculated over here, and then output of the final speed, whatever it is calculated, total is calculated, highest and lowest. So you can see from this for initialization to this next and average, pretty much VB is closest to the pseudocode. And then each of these lowest, highest, and average are output. Let's see how this code works in Python. In Python, we don't have to declare variables. As soon as you initialize a variable with a value, Python creates the variable, declares it itself. And then we have got for count is for count in range 1 to 5. We don't use then word over here. Rather, we have got this colon. This colon means that it is then. Then we have to take input. Whenever we take input in Python, it is in a string in text form. So we have to convert it to integer, and then we will assign that to time. And then the formula goes pretty much the way it is. Then instead of console.writeLine in Visual Basic or output in or in pseudocode, we use print command in Python. So this will print it, and then total goes pretty much the same. And over here, it goes the same. Only you would see that then is not there. Rather, these columns are paying the purpose of then. And then average is calculated. Now you see that there is no next over here. To if there is no and if, to while there is no and while, there is no repeat until in Python, and for a for there is no and for or next in Python. Python rather use these constructs with the help of these indentation. So if you see after for there is a gap of two characters. This two characters gap is actually saying that it is under for. As soon as this character gap is finished over here in on line 18, this for ends. So for works until this position, and then this average will work once the for is done, and then the print will happen. So these two questions are actually uh, related to simple for next. Now let's get back to our presentation. What is the second one? Second one is percentage. So in percentage, this is simple percentage and simple count, simple percentage, and then with the help of integer for whole number, and then digit extraction, and then log, and then we have got mod and div. Let's discuss those. Sir, Yusuf sir, Shahzada, are you there?
Yes, sir, we are here.
Yes. Would you like to discuss a question if I share it? Let's discuss this question. Simple counting based question. Hold on. Which one is simple count based question? Yes, temperature count. All right, temperature count, temperature.
सर कोई सा भी क्वेश्चन पिक कर लेते हैं अगर सर यूसुफ एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं तो
Yes, here.
यूसुफ तुम एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हो
This question is May-June 2006, question 20. Temperatures are being collected in an experiment every hour 200 for over a 200-hour period. Write an algorithm using pseudocode or otherwise which input each temperature and output how many. This how many tells that this is counting inside counting, that out of 200 times we have to calculate how many times the temperature were above 20 and how many times the temperatures were below 10 out of 200 times, and then we have to find the lowest. So once again, degree C is not being taken into consideration because it is a unit. We don't consider units to work this way. Ji sir. Sarshadada.
Okay. So you want me to solve this question, to discuss this question, question number 20?
Yes, sir.
Temperatures are being calculated in an experiment every hour over a 200 hour period. So we can see by looking at this question that we have to input 200 readings. So we can use for next loop, it's preferred. So for count is equal to 1 to 200, or for temperature is equal to 1 to 200. We have to write an algorithm using pseudocode, which will input temperature. So our input variable is temperature. And what outputs are required, how many, just like Zafar has have told us that the term how many basically help us identify that we need to do counting with condition here. So we need to count how many temperatures are above 20 out of those 200 temperatures. And we also need to count how many temperatures are below 10 out of those 200 temperatures. And thirdly, we also have to isolate the lowest temperature. In all of those 200 readings, which temperature value is the lowest? So this is the question. Sir, will you going to solve it, or Sir Yusuf,
You
if you
please
just
go
want
ahead.
to intervene, just need to,
Sir Shivada, please you do it.
I should do it?
Yes, sir.
Chalo. Okay. Please do remind me if I do miss out, because
All right.
question is not in front of
Yes,
me.
yes, yes, for sure, for sure.
All right. So okay, one strategy which often used by the programmers is that when you just look into the question, you just start solving it immediately. And as far as I remember, just give me a second. It should. Something is not working properly.
Should I go with it?
I guess you should go with it, because I'm having some technical issues at my side.
All right. So please stop sharing so that I could share.
Just give me a second. It's kind of stuck. Yes, sir, please.
So this is a simple for next, but it requires us to count this, how many tells that we have to count. So we have to take 200 times temperature, and every temperature will be calculated against 20 and 10, and we would have to count in two different variables. Remember that counting requires us to have +1. So again, github.com/ZAK-on-Web, and in it we have repositories. Go to the repository. All of you can always avail these codes, and then codes of O level, and then here we go, format 1 or for next, simple for next, and then we have this temperature above 20 and below 10 thing. Now in here you can see, so we have to run this loop. This is pretty much simple question. We have to run this loop 200 times, and then we have to input the temperature, and we have to check that if temperature is greater than 20, then we will be adding 1 to A, because this A variable will be holding up the times out of 200 the temperature was above 20. And similarly, if the temperature is less than 10, then we have to hold up that how many times the temperature out of 200 was less than 10, and it will be added to B. So A will be holding the times, number of times temperature is above 20, and B will be holding times the temperature was below 10. And similarly, we don't have highest over here, we have rather only lowest. So temperature is, if the temperature entered is less than lowest, then lowest is equal to temperature, and then we will output A, B, and lowest. A is how many times it was above 20, B is how many times it was below 10, and the lowest is what. So since we don't have highest, we have only lowest, so we made just lowest 1000 positive side. So that's it with the simple. For next simple count questions, let's go with the percentage one. These ones, so we did simple count the scenario, and then we will be going for percentage. So there is one popular question that we have to cover. That is rock, jazz, and all. This is question from May, June 2014. P12. It says that a school has 1500 students. So this 1500 makes it format 1, simple, count based. All right. So a school has 1500 students. It is conducting a survey on their music preferences. So all 1500 students are being judged for their preferences in music. Each student has a computer and input their names and then chooses one of the 5 options. So now over here it is given that if someone likes to choose rock sort of music, they will be entering 1. If they will be choosing soul, then they will be entering 2. If they will be choosing pop, they will be entering 3. If they will be choosing jazz, they will be entering 4. And if they will be choosing classical, they will be entering 5. So write an algorithm using pseudocode or a flowchart which input the choice of all 1500 students. So every student will be required to input their name and their choices. Which choice is one of the 5 options. So there will be a loop for count is equal to 1 to 1500, and then input name and choice. And afterwards, output the names of all the students who choose classical music. So we would have, this is called output with decision. So we will be taking input and we will be checking input. If the input is 5, then we will be outputting the name of the student. Otherwise, we won't be outputting the name of the student. So if a student chooses 1, 2, 3, or 4, their name will not be output over the screen. But if a student chooses 5, then their name will be output to the screen. This is what it means. It's called output with decision. And then last is, it says that output the percentage who have chosen each option. Means out of 1500, how many students have chosen rock, how many have chosen soul, how many have chosen pop, how many have chosen classical, how many have chosen jazz, and their percentages.
It's mean we have to do 5 counting with conditions, and then we have to calculate 5 percentages.
Yes. Yes. So let's start. The code is uploaded over here. Its name is Jazz Rock Count. All right, so there we go. This is actually the pseudocode. Let's first discuss this one. It says for count is equal to 1 to 500. For count is equal to 1 to 500.
500.
Sorry, 1500. Input the name and choice. And then we will be evaluating choice. If choice is equal to 1, then it was rock. Option 1 was rock. So if the choice is equal to 1, then R is equal to R plus 1. R represents rock count. If the choice is 2, then soul. If the choice is 3, then pop. If the choice is 4, then jazz. But if the choice is 5, then there are 2 things. It is classical. So we have to count as well as output the name of the student. But in other cases, we have just got one option. So if there is just one statement attached to one selection, one if statement, then we can put that in front of then. But if we have got more than one, then we have to put those two statements in lines subsequent to if. But in for that case, we have to use and if, so that computer has an idea that where the effect of this particular if is ending. And this indentation leaving the space over here makes it readable for our examiner that this if goes from here till here, but this if goes only in one line. Why in one line? Because there was just one statement that had to be executed. If this condition is true, then we can put that statement over here. But if we have got more than one statements, then we will put those statements in lines subsequent to the condition. But in that case, we will have to use and if. This is for the pseudo code. So if someone has entered one, it will be counted in this variable, and otherwise in this variable, and all 5 choices are counted. But the only distinction is that if someone has chosen number 5, their name will be output on the screen. So this would go on for 1500 times. Afterwards, every student, every choice's percentage will be found. So this R holds that how many out of 1500 students have chosen for rock. So the formula for the percentage could be R divided by 1500 multiplied by 100. So I have simplified the formula. This is R over 15. So this is the percentage being found. So this is very simple. Go on for 1500 times. Every time input the name and choice. Count the choice of each student in their respective variables. Remember the choices with +1. If someone chooses number 5, and then output their name as well. And then once you get out of the loop, find the percentages of all 5 choices and then output the percentage on the screen. Let's see how this program goes if we execute it. Hold on. Let me run in Python. I use PyCharm to execute Python, but Python can be executed even on online interpreters as well. It is one interpreted language. It is not a compiler-based language. So this was rock, jazz, count part. Now you can see that these variables are being initialized over here. The loop goes on. Remember, there is no and if, there is no then, and instead of and if, we use this indentation over here. This indentation tells that these 2 lines are part of this if. Indentation in Python is necessary. So everything is done over here. We may go like R divided by 1500 multiplied by 100. This could be another way. If you simplify it, then this would become this way. So let's just execute it. Instead of making it 1500, let's make it 5. Let's execute it. I cannot run this loop for 1500 times. So enter name. Sir Yusuf. Yusuf has chosen 1. Sir Shahzada. He has chosen 5. Since he has chosen 5, his name will appear as well. And then Zafar. He has chosen 3. Then Ali. Then he has chosen 2, and then Vase. He has chosen 3. So there is the output. The percentage of those who have chosen 1 is 20, 2, 20, 3, 40, because there were 2 persons, Zafar and Wase, who have chosen 40, and no one has chosen 4, so there is no, and then 5 who has chosen 20% for 5. All right, so that is how it works. Now, this was it, and now let's go ahead and discuss. Now we will go a bit faster because we have to cover a number of questions here. So let's first discuss that how this whole number thing works with the integer over here, with integer function, digit extraction and integer function. Now, here we go. October, November 2011, P11, question 17B. Write an algorithm using pseudocode or flowchart only, which input 1000 number. So this 1000 number makes it for next loop, and then output how many of these numbers were whole numbers, means integers. So you may assume that integer x is your in your answer. For example, y is equal to an integer of 3.8 gives y is equal to 3. So integer function, what it does, it sheds off, it cuts off, it just gets rid of the fractional part, the decimal part. So even if it is 5.9999.9999 will not be rounded, rather it will be truncated. So if you apply integer to any fraction floating number, the integer makes it a whole number, but not by rounding it off, but by shedding the fractional part of it. So it says that it is helping us, the question is helping us that if someone has entered 3, so the integer of 3 will still be 3, so they both will be meshed, means the number that is entered and the integer of it, they will be meshed. If the two match, it means that the number that was originally entered was integer. But if someone has entered 4.5 and the integer of 4.5 will be 4, so 4.5 is not equal to 4. So if the two match, they will be counted as integer. If the two don't match, it will be counted as a real number. So let's see how. As you can see over here, it is simple. It is very simple. For count is equal to 1 to whatever the number that is given, I deliberately
हेलो हाँ भैया
Hello.
सब क्या हो रहा है
अभी
I
live
guess
है
Sir Zafar is out of I think might be it's because of the internet. Sir Yusuf, I guess you can continue with the things that Sir Zafar was जो Sir Zafar अभी बात कर रहे थे हम उसी को कंटिन्यू करते हैं क्योंकि हम बहरहाल जो है
Yes, we can.
लाइव जा रहे हैं तो सर जो लास्ट टॉपिक था वो प्रोग्राम को रन करके दिखा रहे थे जिसके अंदर we have to input the choice for music and we have to input the name of the students. तो क्वेश्चन ऑलमोस्ट हो चुका था.
Yes, वो
Sir, आप
उनके पास solution है. He has done, but
अच्छा, मीनवाइल हम सर कुछ ऐसा करते हैं कि अगर आप कोई क्वेश्चन को पिक कर लें, उसको एक्सप्लेन करना शुरू कर दें, बिकॉज हम ये चाहते हैं कि जो क्वेश्चंस हैं फॉर नेक्स्ट लूप से सॉल्व होने वाले, जिसमें हमारे पास नंबर ऑफ इनपुट्स फिक्स है. अच्छा, मीनवाइल लेट मी शेयर द स्क्रीन and try to pick few of the questions in O levels. We can pick few questions to solve. We can take help from, yeah. So we have number of questions here.
yes.
So देखिए ये क्वेश्चन हमारे सामने मौजूद है, आपको मेरी स्क्रीन पर नजर आ रहा होगा. The weather conditions in a town are being monitored over a year. 365 पूरे साल के 365 दिन. The values recorded per day and weather type and temperature. में दो चीजें input करनी है. The number one thing is weather type and the second thing is temperature. So we can simply identify the question is being solved using for next loop because we have fixed number of inputs. And sir, if you can continue with the question. If you just want to solve this question, please go ahead.
Sorry, I got disconnected.
Sir, it's okay. Welcome back, Sir Zafar.
All right. So where were we?
Sir, we were discussing the question in which we have to input name and the music choice of students.
All
We
right.
were running the code on Python.
Okay. Is it done?
Yeah, it was done. You were executing the code in Python
Alright.
and it was working fine.
All right. So it is now done integer and now digit extraction. Digit extraction, what actually happens that let's say this question, CD, DVD, book, video. Now this question says a company has 5,000 CDs, DVDs, videos, and books in stock. Each item has a unique 5-digit code, with the first digit identifying the type of item. If the code's first digit is 1, like in here it is 1, the first digit is 1, it says that it is CD. And if it is 3, like in here, it says that it is video. So what we have to do, we have to input the codes for 5,000 items here, and then calculate how many were CDs, how many were DVDs, how many were books, and then we have to output the 4 totals. Over here, the total does not mean that it is total. Over here, the term total is used for the counts. Means if you add up these 4 different counts, they will become 5,000, because out of 5,000, few are CDs, few are DVDs, few are videos, and few are books. So now let's discuss this question. For count is equal to 1 to 5,000, input the code. Now remember, the code is of 5 digits. All right. So if we divide 5 by 10,000, we are left with, hold on, let me explain this. we have got 5,000. Let's say 3, 5, 6, 2, 9. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits. If we divide it by, we have to extract first digit only, this one. So what we do, if we have to extract one digit, then we will put 1 underneath that one digit and 0 underneath rest. This will make it 3.5629. Let's assign it to x, and then y is equal to integer of x. This will make it just 3. So that is how we have extracted this. Now let's say we have to extract, like I have got this number 0 3 triple 1 triple 2 925. I've got this number. I want to extract first 3 digits. First 3 digits means these 3. So I will put 1 here and 0 in rest. So this will give me 311.1 triple 2 925, and if I apply integer on it, this will give me just 311. So these 3 digits are extracted. That is how this thing works. Now what happens that we know that this code is of 5 digits. So it is 5 digits, so we divide it by 10,000. You know that how 10,000. So if, and then we apply integer on top of it. So if x is 1, it means that it is CD, then we count into CD. The variable for CD count is CD. And then if it is 2, then it is DVD. Then if it is 3, it is video. Then if it is 4, then it is a book. And once all 5,000 CDs, DVDs, and books are covered, we will be having CD, DVD, video, and book output. So let's run this code and see how it works. So this code is being executed. Over here, I'm entering 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 digits. This would go on for 5 times. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 2, 1, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. And then see, they have asked us to validate the code as well. So this is validation. If x is equal to 1, then CD is equal to CD plus 1. If x is equal to 2, then DVD is equal to D plus 1. If x is equal to 3, then video is equal to video plus 1. If x is equal to 4, then book is equal to book plus 1. If x is greater than 4, then it is invalid code. So it has actually mentioned that it is invalid code. Rest of the times there is 1 CD, there are 2 DVDs, 0 videos, and 0 books. That is how the code works. Now there was one question for div, that was barcode reader. This question is May, June 2013, P11. It says that question number 16. It says that a small shop uses barcodes which represent 5 digits. Again, these barcodes are of 5 digits. The last digit is used as a check digit. So it means that if we are taking inputs, in 5 digits. Every digit is being represented by A, B, C, D, and E. A, B, C, and D is actual number, and E is actually the check digit. So what we have to do is we have to multiply the first digit and the third digit by 3. So A will be multiplied by 3, C will be multiplied by 3. We have to multiply second and fourth digit B and D by 2. And then we will be adding the 4 totals and then dividing that by 10. As I told you that dividing, the word division does not imply that what sort of division. We have got 3 types of division: remainder, integer quotient, and absolute division. So what sort of this division, we have no idea. So we have to read further. It says that remainder is a check digit. So it means that you will multiply first and third digit by 3, second and fourth digit by 2, add all those totals, divide them by 10, and whatever the remainder, that has to be equal to E over here. This is what they require. Now, they said that write an algorithm using pseudocode or flowchart which input 105-digit barcode. So the loop will go on for 100 times, and every time we will be inputting A, B, C, D, E. 5-digit barcode, but in the form that there are 5 variables will be used. And then they recalculate the check digit. Recalculate the check digit means the check digit is already there. On all we have to check is like we are at a checkout counter, that we are entering the data, and system is checking whether the data that is being input is correct or not. All right, so let's do it. And then ultimately we have to tell that output the number of means how many barcodes out of the entered barcodes were correct or not. So first see over here, for count is equal to, I have just taken I want to take 5 inputs. So I take input in A, B, C, D, and E. As I told you that Python takes input as a string, so we have to convert it with integer function to integer form. This is called casting. And then once that is done, then first and third input will be multiplied by 2, and second and fourth will be multiplied by first and third by 3, second and fourth by 2, and this symbol is of mod. As they said that this is remainder, we use %sign in Python for mod, and mod, the word mod, MOD, for Visual Basic or pseudocode. So let's execute it. So over here, it says enter A. What was it there? Let's check it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. A is 0, B is 1, C is 2, D is 3, E is 4. Then it will go on for 5 times. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, sorry. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 6, 7, 5, and 7, and then 4, 3, 5, 4, 2, 1. These are 5 I entered. Only the first one that I entered from the question was correct, and rest were not. So it had counted it. Now in pseudocode, let's see how it works, how it seems, how it looks like. Remember, all these codes are online and you can watch them. You can use them, you can copy paste them, you can run them from github.com/ZAK-on-web, as it appears over here. They all are available. Now let's see. In pseudocode, it has become for count is equal to 1 to 10 until next, then we enter a number, and sorry, which one is this? Wrong number. So it's not whole number, it's CD DVD book. No, which one is this? Barcode check digit. All right. So for count is equal to 1 to 100, A, B, C, D, E is input. It was multiplied. Then whatever the value out of those 4 multiplications total is then divided by 10, but with mod, not by slash, but mod. Mod will actually put the remainder in Y, and then we will be checking that the entered E, if it is equal to calculated Y, then we will be counting it, and ultimately we will be outputting it. So this was it. Now let's discuss a couple of questions from format 1. In fact, we don't have much time, so let's discuss just one question for format 4 or nested if. Now, the same question, let's take the same question. All right, this is May, June 2010, P11. A group of students were monitoring the temperature every day over a 1-year period. Readings were taken 10 times every day. 10 times every day means that every day there will be 10 readings. And you may assume that there are 365 days. So it means that for every single day out of 365 days, 10 readings will be done. So outer loop will be days. So you have to figure it out that which number is bigger in sense than the other one. Let's say if there are 10 classes and 30 students in every class, so it means that a class is consuming a student, a class is holding a student. So the class is the bigger in sense. So this would be the outer count. Class would be the outer count. So outer count would be for class is equal to 1 to 10, and inner count would be for a student is equal to 1 to 30. So it means that for every class there are 30 students. Similarly over here, for every day there are 10 readings. For every day there are 10 readings means that outer count would be the days. For day is equal to 1 to 365, and inner count would be the reading. For reading is equal to 1 to 10. So for every day there are 10 readings. And then they ask to input temperatures 10 per day. It means that it will be in the inner count. And then output the highest temperature, the lowest temperature over the year. Over the year means that every single input will be checked out of all outer 365 loops and inner 10 loops per outer count. So this will be actually 3650 inputs. And then we will be outputting average temperature per day and the whole year. So we need two totals, one total for inner count and one total for outer count. So let's see how we do that. For next format 4 I call for nested loops. Format 4 day reading. We have got Python code, we have got VB code, we have got pseudocode. So you can see over here for days is equal to 1 to 365. This is the outer count. And then for reading is equal to 1 to 10. So it means that for every day there will be 10 readings. When the day will move on, there would be 10 readings. So input temperature for the first reading, then it will be totaled up. All right. Then, sorry, this code is good. This one is better. All right. Okay. So for days equal to 1 to 365, then for reading is equal to 1 to 10. I discussed these two initialization after some time. And then input temperature. Total is equal to total plus temperature. If temperature is highest and lowest is checked. So this is inner loop. If you look at it, it would be seen like it is simple format 1. So you can say that format 4 or nested for next is actually wrapping the format 1 inside it. Now afterwards, once you get out, average of the day is calculated and output. Now the thing is that if you have got 10 inputs and their total for one day, and you go for another day, you would have to make that total 0 so that the next 10 inputs will be calculated. The average of those 10 inputs will be calculated. The total of those 10 inputs will be calculated separately from the previous day. If you don't initialize it, if you don't make the total and the average 0 again, they will carry on with the totals from the previous days, and that will make the whole effort wrong. But since you are making total 0, how would you keep the grand total? Because you would have to find the average of the whole year as well. So what happens that as soon as we get out of these 10 inputs, we know that we have the total of these 10 inputs for, and then what we do, we add that total up to a grand total first, and then we find out the average of the day and we output the average. And again, when we start for the second day, subsequent day, we make the total and average 0, so that for that new day only 10 inputs are taken, their total is found, and the average is deduced out of it. Once we get out of the final loop, it means that for all 365 days, for 10 readings every day, it means that there are 3650 readings now. So 3650 readings means we have a grand total of 3650 inputs. Now we need to find the average of the year as well. And similarly, you should know that these highest and lowest were being taken, but they were not used while the outer and inner loops were working, because they asked us to output the highest and the lowest of the whole year. All right, output highest and the lowest of the whole year. So we will be outputting it at the end because it is the whole year, and then average of the year. But and remember, this average of the year is not just out of 10 or 365, because this is the grand total of all 3650 inputs. It is 3650 number, which is being used to find the average. This is the count of inputs over the year, 10 every day for 365 days. So that is how it will be done. So that's about it. I know that we could not do justice with this topic. This is a vast topic. Another 2-3 hours can go with it. But the thing is that we are short of time, and we expect that we have paved a way, a foundation for you people to understand about these loops. And there are lectures on the channel. You can go on channel ZAK on Web. You can find ZAK on Web on YouTube, and there are lectures for these. But remember one thing: this simple fornex, I call it format 1, and this nested fornex, I call it format 4. So you will find these lectures by the name format 1 and format 4 over the website. Let's take some questions, sir, if there are any.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions, sir?
Let me check, sir. Not yet, sir.
Not yet, sir.
Hmm.
All right. Let's wait for another 2-3 minutes. Then we go offline.